Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Dog Classroom podcasts. I'm Anne-Marie.
And I'm Amelia.
And for this session, we are going to talk about small dogs. Small dogs with the weather change.
Yes, in winter.
In winter, late fall, winter. And then we're also going to just touch a bit, I think, on senior, because we just did another senior podcast for, I don't want to necessarily say just bigger dogs, because I think all the information is important, but we want to touch on just some of the particular changes you should watch for the dog. So already we sort of have like a stack of different coats and stuff here. So why don't we go with that to start?
We'll jump right into it. So what we talked about with senior dogs and temperature regulation. So even with non-senior, just adult or puppy small dogs in the winter, I would say most of them are going to need a coat at some point.
Yeah.
Depending on obviously their tolerance, their fur, all that stuff. But when we start introducing these coats to them, a lot of the time we just want to shove it on and then they freeze and they don't want to do anything. So
they freeze, won't move. We're not talking about freezing outside.
Right, physically will not move. So why don't we talk a little bit about how you could train your small dog to get used to putting something like this on. Yeah,
so, and then the idea to do it is not to say, even with Tulip or you with Nuggie, is that we're just do the coat during the winter time. I think randomly, the odd time I'll put a rain jacket on her throughout the year or different types of harnesses.
Our dogs have a wardrobe.
Yeah, okay. So I would say a lot of small dogs have a wardrobe, but the idea is I'm just saying it's not like they go naked for 8 months of the year and then they have to wear it for 4. So what we suggest a lot of times is training it before you need it.
Right.
So then you're not stressed about it, but then also keep up the training. So I just want to pull out, this is Tulip's favorite hoodie.
Yeah, and she's worn that one. I've even seen her in it
and the reason why I say it's her favorite is this one, when you pull out, she'll actually help you put it on. So we're gonna see if she's gonna let us do it. So
see, she does head down.
Yeah,
right
and then,
through there.
Yeah, the head slides through. Oh, look,
she's putting her feet in.
She's putting her feet in.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, and then she puts the other one in, and there you go. She's happier than Stink. So the thing about her hoodie is
she thinks we're going somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And now apparently we're going for a walk. But it's taken a little bit to sort of get there, but I think this one, she likes the fact that she puts her head through sort of thing. So have I tried to buy different coats and stuff with the same way of putting it on? Yes.
Right. Yeah, where Nuggie does not like when I put stuff over her head. She more prefers the Velcro.
Right.
At the front and the bottom.
Yeah, so then let's go. And then again, here's the little joke. I'll take your harness off. This is her fall hoodie because it's not too thick, right? And I basically put it on based on temperature or wind.
We have different jackets, right?
Exactly.
We have our fall and our winter and our summer and our rain.
So then something like this even is it's lined, but it's waterproof. So this is one we may put on when it gets a little bit colder. And again, this isn't necessarily her favorite, is because, see already, she's like, really? But again, we've worked on this a little bit. Every time we put stuff on, cookies happen. Okay.
And good things happen because we go for walks and she's mad. This is what I mean though about freezing. See, like she's not physically like cold. She's just not doing anything.
But then lastly, and then some people say, well, how do I tell if my dog's hot or cold? Well, obviously if you put a coat on and they're panting, they're too hot.
Right.
But the tricky thing is, I find a lot of times, if say I, just put the hoodie on, do I see her actually shaking? Right? Like
shaking cold?
Like cold, shaking cold.
Okay, so I know like for Nuggie, and I've also seen Tulip do it, if they're even a little bit cold, they're shaking.
Yeah.
So I find for Nuggie, when she has the coat on, I don't see that as much unless it's very, very cold, in which case we'll talk about booties and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's to sort of watch that. And then ideally, you saw Tulip froze with this one where, eventually she'll start going. But let's just talk about real quick, just because we're talking about warmth and shivering and stuff. My suggestion is if it's, minus 10 or whatever outside, if you're going for a slow leash walk, because they're smaller, they have more of a challenge of regulating temperature. If you're going for a slow leash walk, make it really quick. Right. Because they're not going to keep that internal temperature up.
Because they're not moving
They're
enough.
not moving enough. So, you have to look at socialization versus exercise. So socialization, I say to people, guess what? You're going shopping. You're going to find the list of places that allow dogs and then, walking and moving them around. And that's great socialization. If I'm taking her out and say we're out on the driveway, I'm getting her to run. Like I'm trying to keep that body temperature up. So whether she's on a longer line or because we do off-leash walks, she's able to keep that up. FYI to everybody, I think Amelia's the same way. If you're in the bush with the trees.
Right. It's like insulated.
It's insulated. I find it's usually like at least 5 degrees warmer.
Well, and it blocks the wind.
Yeah.
We know they don't like wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nuggie definitely prefers a bushwalk, just not when the snow is too deep.
Yes, but that's actually an option. Sorry, what I was going to say is if the snow hasn't been plowed and they're going through the snow like this, they're more likely to get cold, especially their feet. You can see these little feet, right?
Yeah.
But the tricky thing with B too, this is B, my miniature poodle, is then we end up with snowballs and then it's like the cold is sort of sticking there when they're going like up and through. They do way better even with booties when they're walking on packed snow.
Right.
Yeah, so what does that mean? We get out there with our snowshoes. We pack the snow.
I do snowshoe for the dogs,
or the driveway's plowed. And then the dogs, that's when we bring them out, run them up and down the driveway, because there's been a few times that we've done that. We've both done that on the driveway if we're not able to sort of get into the bush, right? But it's knowing what your dog can handle and definitely being safe about it. My worry all the time with her, and I would say with Nuggie too, this is Nuggie's jacket Amelia had made. It's nice. It has the neck warmer sort of piece, but I always worry about the tips of her ears.
I pull it forward and it covers her ears.
Yeah.
She just doesn't like it. So
no, I bought Tulip a neck warmer, but apparently that didn't work too well. But, so far she hasn't necessarily got frostbite on those ears, but I'm very aware of the environment now in having her for a period of time.
Well, it's the extremities, it's the ears, it's the tip of the tail, it's the toes. Like those are the things that you need to worry about with frostbite.
Yeah.
And so I find a lot of the time, like Nuggie's winter jacket, the one that you have, it's a little bit longer than her body.
Right.
So it covers her tail a little bit too. And then, like I said, I can put the hood up so that it covers her ears.
Here.
That one's a step-in.
I'm giving this to you.
Okay.
You're gonna deal with her.
So this I actually bought at Mech in Toronto. So it's like a hefty outdoor parka for dogs.
And she loves it.
And she hates it. Okay, so the legs go in, and then, the leg came out.
She doesn't do well with step-in ones. I have to say I haven't trained it, to be
But then
honest.
it has the zipper so that we can make it nice and secure.
So you'll notice, just because, we're trying on this sort of new jacket, I am feeding her and she's accepting what Emil's doing. The other funny thing too is you have to be aware of sort of how thick and bulky the coat is, because when they're petite and they have this huge coat, they don't necessarily maneuver.
Yeah, so this
really
is down-filled, so it is a little bit heavier, like bulkier, but I find it doesn't weigh a lot, so it's not super offensive for them to be walking in.
Yeah. The other thing is B has one where it has the the arms and the legs if you want a little bit more coverage.
That red fleece has it.
Yeah, that's how, it does. So
I
this
use that as an undercoat.
Right, you do. Or this can be necessarily pajamas, but.
Yeah, if they get cold indoors.
So.
It's got little feet and legs. And then also Nuggie's other winter jacket, her waterproof one, has elastics that go around the back legs, or Anna's has the tail. which is funny.
I saw the tail one. I was like, how comfortable is that?
I don't know, but it keeps it so that their back end is a little bit covered.
Right.
So Nuggie doesn't tolerate it very well, so I just buy her things that are longer, and then she doesn't have to have the straps on there.
Yeah.
But there's so many different kinds of winter coats, and like we're saying, like some are step-in, some are over the head, some are Velcro.
Ideally, if you can take your dog to the store
and see what they'll tolerate.
and see what they have, because even like this one you noticed is a bit short on her. Like the length and the width and everything is workable. The other thing is I had her and I tried one in the store and I got home and then it just didn't work. So yeah, definitely if you can bring them in, if you order something online, be prepared to possibly send it back.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit is because I find because we do small dog classes, so we're seeing sort of all the different levels. I find people will say to me, my dog won't walk in the winter.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay. Right? So that's when we recommend and we try to have more small dog classes come January to March, or small dog socials, which you have a tendency to do a lot.
Yeah.
But different activities to do in the house. So tell me what some of your favorite activities to do in the house for days you can't get Nuggie out.
Scent games.
Okay.
Nuggie likes her scent games. She's really good at using her nose to find her toys, or to find treats, or to find whatever she thinks she wants to find. But if I set up a little course and I hide her special toys somewhere,
okay,
and I tell her to go search, she likes to go and find things.
Right.
We also I have those like puzzle tiles in one room, so we have like a little training space.
Oh, okay.
Where like it's not slippery, and obviously we just talked about in the other episode the flooring being grippy for them.
Yep.
So we'll do training in there where...
So other option to those square tiles is yoga mat.
Yoga mats, carpets, whatever you can find.
Yep.
But she'll do a little bit of training on there. So we'll do like sits and downs, we'll do spins. She is not a huge fan of food puzzles.
Oh.
She feels like those are maybe too much work. And she's not really a big food dog, so for her, she's like, I could take it or leave it. I see that Tulip's doing some trick training, so that's another option as well.
That's her go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, Tulip's go-to, and we do it pretty much, throughout the day, is she likes her sit pretty. We all know she does that on her own. Loves her spins, making sure even to do 1 to 2 minutes a few times a day. What I like to do as far as search is, because this little one isn't necessarily toy motivated, is I do more search cues with cookies down the hallway. Is I'll whip a cookie down the hallway. Alfie also loves when you whip a cookie down the stairs. So he runs down the stairs, she runs down the hallway, grabs the cookie back. So you're getting back and forth.
You can also practice your recall that way.
Yes, actually, yep. Or so what I do with Alfie, toss the treat down the stairs, say search cue, he gets his cookie, I recall him back up, send him back down. My joke a little bit, 10 minutes takes the edge off. It's actually quite wonderful. So you can use search cues that way. You can use their kibble to do that. When I get out and if I'm doing my little workout or whatever, this one likes to get onto the Bosu.
Right.
Or even the slam ball. She's got her feet up there doing perch work. So what I do is we just take an extra few minutes and she just interacts with some of the equipment.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The reason why I think I'm listing some of the equipment is, we'll have clients in our space and they're like, oh, well, we don't have the fancy Fitbone or Peanut or whatever. Like, use what you have, right? Yeah. Perching up on an ottoman, trying to think, crawling underneath a coffee table.
Yeah. You can also do like little, on the non-slip flooring, I have a little broomstick that I'll put on 2 books. And we'll do little tiny jumps in there.
Yep.
Because we're agility people. We like agility.
Yep.
Cat tunnels, tons on Facebook Marketplace, tons on the internet.
But even at the dollar store right now.
Dollar store,
Or those little, they have those little flexible houses. You can even play a game where go to mat where they go in and walk around. Yeah, I've heard the cat tunnels. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so a little bit of like mini agility.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that even if your dog won't walk in the winter, even if, they're small, whatever, what we see a lot of the time in springtime when we call it reactive dog season is because they don't see anybody. They don't see any dogs. They don't see any people because they're not going out. So I think it's still important to go out And maybe even if they'll only walk for a little bit, we can put them in a carrier.
Right. So, yeah, definitely the option Amelia's saying, and I think honestly you sort of have to figure out what works for you, is we did get Tulip a carrier, and she won't stay still in it. She does better where she walks a little bit with her booties or jacket, and then we put her in her jacket. We put her, so yeah, now we're buying a jacket with a looser jacket, and we put it in there, where B will do better in a carrier. Right?
Nuggie likes she likes to be horizontal.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't like the backpacks where they're up vertical. So she has a little sling and then she lays.
Yeah.
And she's across and she'll just lay there.
Yeah.
And she loves that. And then she still gets to go for a walk with the big dogs.
Right, but she has our body heat and she's still wearing
And I usually put
coat,
a blanket in it as well. So.
Yeah. So, or the other thing again is take the pouch and so forth. And I'm huge within the winter time, you know, going shopping.
Yeah.
What I do is I check with the manager first and say, you know, we do know the pet stores allow the dogs, but there's a few other venues as well. Check with the manager if it's okay. So sometimes I'll just carry them and at least they get to see different types of people, hear different sounds. Or this one particularly loves the places where they actually sell dog things, not only the pet stores, but she's on and off all the different dog beds and the chaises and that sort of thing. Loves it.
That's good.
So,
yeah, and then it just keeps them a little bit social. And like you said, I like to do small dog socials. I like to do my small dog classes in the winter, but it's because of what we've seen, right, is that they lose that. And we want to make sure that people know it's important. You can't just keep your dog away from everything for 4 months of the year because it's a little bit cold.
Yeah. You just have to be more creative is what we're asking
everybody. And we want them to still get out and do activities just with modifications so that it's within their limits.
Yeah.
And like the bag or the carrier or the boots and the coat and everything, like those are things that can help them to continue be social because they're getting out still.
So where I want to go next is a little bit of health and hygiene.
Okay.
Because I feel that, is it totally different? No. Should some things be a little bit more paid attention to? I feel like yes, with small dogs.
Okay.
And then I want to talk just a little bit about the aging too.
Okay.
Because
so the first thing that came into my head
when I said that
was all the doodles that grow out their hair in the winter. Yeah. So of course you don't want your dog to be cold, but if you have a poodle, which you do, or you have a doodle, or you have any of those dogs with that sort of longer curly hair, we need to brush that hair every single day. Yeah. Right? Because if we don't, then you can't be upset when they get shaved because they're matted to the skin and it hurts. Yeah. So if
a lot of people think it's help keeping them insulated, but it's not necessarily. The other kicker a little bit is the snow. Like, you know, from Maui and B, like we're talking snowballs.
Yeah.
And the more you pull on the wet hair and stuff, the more it actually mats. So honestly, keeping it a little bit more tidy and trimmed, but wearing the coat is like a compromise there. The other thing is let's go to the booties for a second.
Okay.
Just because I want to talk about nail care, and that's why I think I'm going to go to these a little bit. The tricky thing with Tulip is I find every one of my dogs, and you can tell me the same, is her nails seem to grow quite quicker than some of the bigger dogs. But the other thing, does she walk consistently on pavement? No. It's just as important. Little dogs, big dogs, we always think of our big dogs as more active running and stuff. It's just as important, if not more, to be trimming their nails and to keep that up. And the reason why we say keep that up is if we don't do it for a period of time and then our dog, you know, has a sore shoulder or leg or whatever and they don't want us to touch it anymore. Like, we need to keep them healthy as they get older.
Right.
Right? Dogs are very stoic, so they don't necessarily say, okay, today I have this or that, and we do it based on observation. And Amelia was commenting on with Stark. But the same thing is with the little, is honestly, I find them a little bit more agile, but there are changes there as well. He knows I'm talking about him, so he's coming to sit. So keep the nails trimmed.
Right.
Definitely seasons are changing. They're not wearing them down as well if they're not out and about. The reason, is if you're putting dog booties on them and their nails are long and you're putting these on and their toes are all bendy and stuff and they're not straight, extremely uncomfortable. That may be another reason why they're not enjoying putting the booties on.
Yeah.
When you put booties on, I've had people unfortunately put like all 4 on and then the joke is the dog falls over.
Right.
They
don't want to stand.
They don't want to stand because they're uncomfortable. So highly recommend putting 1 on at a time. See, she already saw these and she's leaving. She will tolerate them, but I have to retrain it sort of every year. So now these are going to be pulled out. Yeah, she's trying to hop off the table. But the idea is, you know, we work through it, we get them on, and then does she have the best time ever? Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
Because again, she's sort of independent like Nuggie, where she doesn't necessarily want to be carried. She wants to be down there and moving. And this is a necessity. If not, we're holding up feet and we're at risk of frostbite.
Yeah.
So it's important for nail therapy, right? So whether it's spring, fall, that sort of thing, to keep them trimmed as well. Weight is a huge one. We mentioned that in seniors, but in general for small dogs, everybody doesn't realize, okay, yeah, Tulip's 7 pounds, but on her frame.
Yeah,
right?
An extra pound is a lot.
An extra pound for Frolic, no big deal. An extra pound for her, little bit of an issue. So Tulip and I have tried working through some weight issues at times. So now she's on a senior diet, which she's doing better with. So then she doesn't sort of seem as hungry moving around. And teeth. Now I'm going to go to teeth. So just going back to dogs are more prone to different, I don't want to say conditions, but health issues if they're overweight. So I'm just going back because unfortunately you see a lot of dogs that are overweight. And just because we have a little dog doesn't necessarily mean they just want to sit on our lap.
Right. They should still be active.
Yes.
And I think part of the problem is a lot of people don't know what an overweight dog looks like because they're so used to seeing it.
True. Yeah, that's actually a very good point.
Dogs are too skinny when they're actually quite healthy.
Yeah.
And I know for my dogs, like Stark gets leaner and more muscle in the winter because he's so much more active, where in the summer he'd rather be inside.
Right.
And Nuggie's the opposite. So I really have to pay attention and work with the individual dog.
Right.
So with Tulip, I know she's similar to Nuggie in that she probably isn't super as active in winter, and that's when you need to watch her weight more.
And I would say in winter, yeah, we aren't necessarily walking as far, but she definitely gets down to the training space and into classes more. And I'm definitely doing some more stuff in the house. So you'll notice right there, I gave her a treat and we just slide the booty on, put it on. There wasn't anything frantic. And again, she hasn't had this for obviously the last little while. I'm not going to sit here, shove all 4 boots on and make her run around. So we did a little
bit of training.
sample, little bit of training, and then we'll call it on that.
We'll leave her alone.
Where I want to go next is teeth.
Okay.
Yep. I think in owning small dogs, and I'm not going to say just small dogs need their teeth brushed because Maui has his teeth brushed. Like I said, Frolic has pretty good genetics. But these guys are more prone to dental disease because they have less bone to hold the teeth in. So Tulip, being 8 years old, has already lost, what did we say, 6 teeth? I think 6 teeth. Her lower fronts, because they literally just pluck out, because as they get older, that bone sort of gets less and aren't covering the base of the teeth. So whether you're feeding a dental diet, whether you're brushing the teeth, you should be doing something dental care.
Right.
That's where your vet comes into play. I've seen one too many dogs, 8 to 10 years old, the smell from their mouth. Like you can imagine like trying to eat and function with so much buildup of plaque and bacteria. The other thing is long-term, that bacteria can then get into the bloodstream and actually make them sick, which I don't think people realize.
No, I think like dental care, even for humans, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Where you can get sick from things getting infected in there.
Yeah.
And I know with certain dogs, like if you're not able to look into your dog's mouth and see if there's something going on, they could have an abscess, they could have, gum recession, they can have lots of different issues.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting that Amelia said looking into their mouth. That's another training. That's training right there.
Yeah.
Is you need to be in there checking it because, again, I said dogs are stoic. You might not know something's happening till literally they have this goose egg or you get the smell.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I would find the main things sort of for dogs are teeth for sure, littles, nails. I'm also going to say grooming, which you brought up a little bit with the hair, but I find as any dog gets older, I feel like they have to be groomed more or they don't groom themselves as much. So we sort of have to
help them out a little bit.
Help them out a little bit with that. So what do you think, Tulip? She says this is pretty good. She had to train for the last little while. So
well, I think maybe a quick summary.
Okay.
Like basically what we're saying is with the weather changing, that was kind of like the theme of the small dog episode. Because I know we've talked small dogs before.
Yeah.
But the theme of this one, more with the weather changing, is to not just hide them out in the house. Think of creative ways. Think of ways to dress them up. Think of different ways that you can keep them social and keep them out.
Yeah.
And also keep them physically active.
Yeah. And then look for the little changes as they get older too, not only with the large dogs, but the little as well. Body composition, the hygiene, the teeth, the nails, the grooming, nutrition. Yeah. Right? Eating as well. Making sure, again, it's just as important these guys get in for their vet visits. And remember, they want to be social and they want to be part of it. So just look at different ways to include them, honestly.
Awesome. So hopefully we've given everyone some things to think about. And we'll see you next time on the Dog Classroom podcast.
Thank you.